The Neuroscience Primer, How Brains Build Reality. To understand what Gateway actually tugged on, we need the brain's playbook. Start with a simple idea dressed in complicated math: predictive processing. Your brain isn't a camera, it's a guesser. It constantly generates models about what should be out there and in here, then checks those predictions against incoming signals. When the guess and the data disagree, you feel prediction error, the raw surprise that forces an update. When they line up, the world feels stable. Neuroscientist Neil Seth calls the result a controlled hallucination. Not fake, but a negotiated truce between top-down expectations and bottom-up noise that your brain continuously edits to keep you alive. This negotiation runs across senses and through time. Vision doesn't stand alone. Proprioception tells you where your limbs are. Interoception tracks your heartbeat, breath, and gut. The vestibular system says which way is up and whether you're accelerating. The Temporoparietal Junction, TPJ, sits at a crossroads where these streams help build a self anchored in a body, in a place. Nudge those inputs or their precision, and the self can slip. That's not mystic, it's engineering. Change the weights on the inputs and the model picks a different best guess. That guess is the you that feels seamless. We've seen how pliable this is. In the rubber hand illusion, a rubber limb is stroked in sync with your hidden real hand. Within a minute, many people feel the fake limb as theirs and even wince when it's threatened. In full-body illusions, a camera shows you your back while your chest is tapped, in time with what you see. People feel located behind themselves. The trick is prediction over raw sensation. The brain bets on coherence and claims whatever best explains the pattern. The controlled hallucination updates to keep the narrative smooth. Timing plays its own tricks. In Lebet-style tasks, brain activity predicting a simple movement appears hundreds of milliseconds before the reported moment of conscious intention. You still move, you still own the action. But consciousness lags construction. The narrative of "I chose, then I acted" is itself a tidy prediction built after the fact. Smooth to feel continuous. That same smoothing colors the way we experience out-of-body transitions, time dilation, and sudden insight in altered states. The brain stitches a clean story from noisy steps. Where do binaural beats fit? Your auditory pathway can register a beat when each ear hears slightly different tones. That beat isn't in the air, it's generated by brainstem timing circuits, especially the inferior colliculus and related nuclei that align phases to extract rhythm. This frequency-following response is real and subcortical in the inferior colliculus, but it's not a magic dial for cortex-wide synchronization. What it can do is provide a gentle, predictable rhythm that attention can settle on. Combined with slow breathing in a quiet room, it helps downshift arousal and tilt the precision balance toward internal signals, making the controlled hallucination easier to steer from the inside. Expectation sits above all of this, shaping what counts as noise and what earns belief. Placebo research shows that belief can reduce pain with measurable shifts in endogenous opioids and dopamine. Tell someone a cream is potent. Pair it with subtle relief a few times, and later the cream alone can cut pain. That's not faking. That's top-down control modulating the meaning of bottom-up input. In a gateway room, authority, ritual, and shared language prime expectations that steer perception the same way. Your priors get heavier, your sampling gets lighter, and your model feels more certain. Multisensory integration has to decide constantly which channel to trust. On a rocking boat, your vestibular system screams motion, while your eyes see a cabin that isn't moving. If the brain upweights vision, you'll feel still and maybe get sick later. If it upweights vestibular signals, you'll feel motion even in the dark. The TPJ and surrounding regions arbitrate these calls. That arbitration is trainable. Breath control reduces interoceptive jitter. Relaxation lowers overall gain on exteroceptive error. Imagery scripts raise the prior. That floating is plausible. The system does the rest. Prediction first, sensation second. Neural coupling shows how we align these models socially. Put a storyteller in one scanner and a listener in another. As understanding rises, their brain activity patterns sync, especially in higher order regions stitching meaning. Story rhythm becomes neural rhythm. Marching together, singing together, even paced breathing in a room can reduce uncertainty by giving everyone the same temporal scaffold. Culture is this at scale. Shared categories, shared rhythms, shared labels that stabilize the controlled hallucination we agree to call real. So when a tape guides you to mind awake, body asleep, it's shifting priors in precision. Alpha and theta often rise with relaxed attention, reflecting a system, reducing sensory sampling, and increasing reliance on internal predictions. You're not forcing the brain into a new physics. You're adjusting dials it already uses. Prediction error tolerance, the gain on particular channels, the stickiness of a prior. Under those conditions, I'm above my body is a reasonable story the system tells itself when vestibular and visual anchors loosen. And a perfect example of a controlled hallucination edited by context. None of this says the world outside disappears. It says your access to it is always mediated by guesses that can be tuned. Gateway scaffolding, rhythm, breath, suggestion, group timing, clusters around mechanisms we can measure. And once you accept that, the next question gets sharper. If mild entrainment and expectation can shift the self-model, how far does that go before you're just pattern completing into wishful scenes? That's where the OBE lab work becomes a map, not a myth. And where the viral question lands, how much of you
binaural
is just
beats
a
do
setting you
anything?
can change? Sorting signal from noise. Here's where marketing meets measurement. Binaural beats are simple. Play 210 Hz in one ear, 216 Hz in the other, and you perceive a 6 Hz wobble inside your head. That 6 Hz lines up with theta territory, which tempts the claim that your cortex will follow along. The auditory system does show a frequency-following response, timing circuits in the brainstem phase lock to the beat, but the key detail is where this happens. The strongest entrainment is subcortical, especially in midbrain hubs like the inferior colliculus. That's a timing engine, not a cortex-wide metronome. So what actually moves? Systematic reviews paint a mixed picture. Studies looking for big jumps in cognition, working memory, attention, long-term recall, often land on small, inconsistent effects. Sometimes episodic memory edges up after weeks of daily theta listening. Other times, nothing budges. Anxiety and pain, though, show more reliable shifts. 20 minutes of alpha or theta beats paired with calm cues can shave downstate anxiety and nudge pain ratings. That pattern makes sense if the main pathway is arousal control via subcortical timing plus expectation, rather than magic synchronization of the entire cortex. EEG doesn't hand us a smoking gun. You can see modest boosts in alpha or theta power in some listeners, mainly during and shortly after exposure, but the effect sizes vary and often vanish under stricter controls. More tellingly, the frequency-following response is strongest below cortex, those subcortical timing circuits centered on the inferior colliculus, while cortex stays selective. Neurons up top don't just mirror any incoming rhythm, they weigh meaning, attention, and context. In predictive processing terms, the beat is a weak prior, unless the situation makes it useful. And context is the confound that never quits. If you tell someone, this audio sharpens focus, you've already shifted their priors. Blinding is hard with audio. Beats sound different from steady tones or pink noise, and trained ears can tell. Expectation can drive outcomes. Reduced anxiety because you believe it's relaxing. Better performance because you're trying harder. Good studies fight this with active controls, open label designs that admit expectancy up front, or by measuring physiology alongside self-report. Even then, expectancy bleeds in, because belief is part of the mechanism. Dose matters too. Carrier frequency, beat frequency, session length, and listening conditions all change the experience. Theta around 4 to 7 Hz before a memory task isn't the same as alpha around 10 Hz before bed. 10 minutes daily for a month lands differently than a one-off listen. Headphones are non-negotiable. The effect depends on keeping each ear's tone isolated. Volume should be comfortable, even forgettable. Too loud and you push arousal up, not down. Individual variability is the rule. Some people are responders. Others just get annoyed. Isochronic tones muddy the waters. They chop a single tone on and off at the target frequency and deliver a clear external pulse. That can produce stronger cortical entrainment than binaurals, but it's also more intrusive and less inside the head. When you see claims about brainwave entrainment, check the method. A clean isochronic pulse can tag cortex. A subtle binaural beat is more of an attentional metronome that helps you coast. So where does that leave Gateway's sync? Somewhere realistic. Beats can help settle attention and lower arousal, which raises alpha/theta power modestly and makes it easier to downweight exteroceptive noise. That's compatible with reports of mind awake, body asleep. But the leap to hemispheric synchronization as a special operational mode with laser-like coherence doesn't have strong support. Hemispheres talk all day via the corpus callosum. Coherence is dynamic and task-dependent, not a steady, tape-delivered trait. There's also a trap in chasing frequencies as if they're dials for functions. Yes, theta shows up in memory, alpha in relaxed wakefulness, gamma in attention and binding. But these bands aren't apps you can launch. They're broad, overlapping signatures of circuits doing many jobs. Turning a knob at 6 Hz doesn't boot memory mode. It might bias the system toward conditions where memory work is easier, lower arousal, stable rhythm, focused attention, but the work still depends on task demands and strategy. In predictive terms, you're nudging priors, not installing programs. A more grounded takeaway is this. Binaural beats are a gentle scaffold. Paired with slow breathing, guided imagery, and a quiet room, they help your brain decide that inside signals are trustworthy and outside signals can wait. Lower anxiety, slightly better pain tolerance, maybe a marginal bump in certain cognitive tasks after consistent use. That's the signal peeking through the noise. None of it requires hemispheres locking like gears. It requires a brain that prefers predictable rhythms when building its controlled hallucination, which circles back to Gateway's design. If the tapes weren't magical, they didn't need to be. They were timing devices, expectation primers, and attention anchors. They created the conditions for the predictive brain to relax its grip on the outside and lean into priors. Under that tilt, self-location loosens and images feel vivid. The right question isn't, do beats sync my brain? It's, do beats, ritual, and belief shift precision enough to change what I feel? The lab answer is yes, modestly and reliably enough to matter. And the hook that keeps viewers here is simple. If a 6 Hz wobble can tilt your world from the brainstem up, what else can you tune on purpose? Leaving the body, OBEs, vestibular tricks, and prediction errors. Here's where the room tilts. When people say, I was above my body, they're reporting a shift in self-location, a decision the brain makes when its best model of where I am slips off the usual anchor points. The anchor points are simple. Vision says what's in front of you, proprioception says where your limbs are, interoception tracks heartbeat and breath, the vestibular system says which way is up. At the temporoparietal junction, TPG, multisensory streams converge to stitch me in this body, in this place. Nudge those signals, or their precision, and the TPJ arbitrates a new best guess. Loosen the stitches, and location becomes negotiable. Labs have learned to do this on command. Put a camera behind you, show that feed on a head-mounted display, and tap your chest in sync with what you see. Within a minute, many people report feeling located a step or two behind themselves. Mechanistically, that's a visuo-vestibular and visuosomatosensory mismatch. The TPJ bets on temporal coherence and adopts the viewpoint that best explains the synchronous pattern. Add a gentle oscillation in the visual scene, and a slow float emerges as the vestibular prior is downweighted. It's not fantasy, it's model selection under uncertainty. Electrical or magnetic perturbation near the TPJ can do the same. Patients report shrinking, hovering, or drifting when those neurons misfire. Pilots in high G conditions describe tunneling vision, spinning, and detachment right before loss of consciousness. The common thread is a mismatch between predicted and incoming signals about motion and gravity, otolith, and semicircular canal cues disagreeing with visual flow. When prediction errors get noisy, the TPJ leans on priors, habits of interpretation, to keep a story going. If you've been primed to expect a float appears. Gateway's pipeline was built to tilt those weights. Slow breathing regularizes interoception. Progressive relaxation lowers overall arousal, which reduces the gain on exteroceptive error. Headphones supply a faint, steady rhythm to stabilize attention. Scripts plant permissive priors. You may feel swaying, you may sense expansion, you are safe. In that state, tiny vestibular ambiguities matter more. With eyes closed and muscles quiet, even micro-oscillations from heartbeat and breath can feel like motion. And the model that I'm slightly above wins because it explains the pattern with the least stress. Viral hook. Your outer body is a TPJ arbitration. You can bias with breath, rhythm, and labels. Lucid dreamers know this terrain. In REM sleep, the body is paralyzed while the brain runs high-fidelity imagery. If awareness pops on while the sensory gate is still mostly shut, you're awake inside a dream engine. Hypnagogic states, the drowsy boundary at sleep onset, carry similar looseness. Gateway aim to hold people at that edge. Mind awake, body asleep. From there, it doesn't take much to tip into an OBE sensation. The content that follows, hallways, rooftops, coastlines, sounds like remote viewing, but we should be careful. Pattern completion loves a blank canvas. Under uncertainty, the brain fills gaps with the most likely scene pulled from memory and expectation. That's efficient most of the time. In an OBE, the brain may be sampling real cues, faint room sounds, air currents, the remembered layout, and stitching them to internally generated imagery. The result feels external because the self-model has shifted viewpoint. Combine that with authority and ritual, and the interpretation narrows. Not a vivid internal simulation, but I went there. Here's a quick micro story from a VR lab. A subject straps in for a body swap demo. The camera shows a mannequin's torso from first-person view. The experimenter strokes the mannequin's arm and the subject's hidden arm in sync. After 90 seconds, the subject gasps when the mannequin's hand is pricked. Skin conductance spikes, a classic proxy in OBE ownership experiments where a threat to the seen but not felt body still triggers autonomic arousal. Then the floor in the headset dips 5 centimeters on a slow sine wave. The subject says, "I'm floating." Nothing in the room moved. The model moved because the TPJ had better odds assigning me to the camera's vantage than to the body in the chair. That relocation is a lab-grade demonstration of a controlled hallucination. A top-down self-location, guest locking to synchronize multisensory cues while bottom-up anchors are weakened. Safety matters because these tricks work by loosening grounding. Some people are prone to dissociation or depersonalization, feeling unreal, detached, or automated. For them, chasing OBEs can spiral. Good protocols build exits. Open your eyes, stand and feel your feet, name 5 things you can see and 3 you can touch. Breathe fast for 10 seconds to push arousal up and re-weight exteroception. The point isn't to gatekeep, it's to keep the tool from turning into a trap. There's a line between training flexible perception and teaching yourself to see patterns that aren't there. Gateway's instructors told trainees to describe, not interpret, for a reason. Cool breeze on my face, sensation of lift, image of a flat roof with a vent can be checked against reality. I traveled to building X and saw a secret antenna, invites confirmation bias. In remote viewing blocks, strict target pools and blind judging were attempts to police that line. The fact that arguments over leakage and statistics never ended tells you how thin the ice was. So what does an OBE mean inside a predictive brain? It means the self-model is adaptable. It can relocate, shrink, expand, or split when inputs and priors push it there. That adaptability is useful. It can reduce pain. Watching a virtual limb cool blue can lower heat pain ratings. It can ease fear. Viewing yourself from a slight distance can blunt social threat. It can unlock creative reframing. Stepping outside the body narrative frees attention to connect odd dots. But an adaptable model also hallucinates with confidence. The more compelling the ritual, the stronger the authority, the tighter the group sync, the easier it is to believe the story your brain tells to keep the world smooth. That doesn't make the experience fake. It makes it explainable and trainable. Gateway found a reliable door into that hallway. What you do once you're there depends on how tightly you hold the difference between a felt place and a mapped one. Patterning, placebo, and prediction, changing the future you feel. Let's shift from floating bodies to steering outcomes. Gateway called it patterning. Strip away the mystique, and you've got a structured way to bias a predictive brain toward a goal. Start with imagery. In sports, vivid mental rehearsal primes motor cortex and related circuits as if you're actually practicing. The shot, the swing, the breath before the serve, run it clean a few dozen times, and the neural pathways light more efficiently when it's real. That's motor priming, rehearsed sensory motor sequences lowering the threshold for execution. Gateway harnessed that. Set a concrete target, Play it through in sensory detail, then attach a cue so the model knows when to fire. That cue is the quiet engine. Implementation intentions sound dry. When X happens, I will do Y. But they work because they embed a prediction into context. When I feel my heart spike, I'll slow my exhale to 6 seconds. Now the spike isn't a surprise. It's a trigger that pulls a policy off the shelf.